Imagine waking up and looking out your window, not at streets or skyscrapers, but at open ocean. Above you, waves roll endlessly across the surface. Below you, entire neighborhoods float, drift, or even sit beneath the sea itself. No traffic, no land, just water in every direction. For decades, floating and underwater cities have lived in the realm of science fiction, but now they're being pitched as real solutions to a very real problem: overcrowded coastlines, rising sea levels, and cities running out of space. Governments, architects, and engineers are asking a radical question. If land is disappearing, why not build on the ocean? Some of these projects are bold experiments backed by the United Nations. Others are futuristic visions costing trillions of dollars that may never leave the drawing board. And at least one is already being built right now, deep below the surface, raising serious questions about safety, cost, and how far humans should push into the sea. So today we're diving into the world of floating and underwater cities, what they cost, why they're being built, how they might affect the human body, and whether they're the future of urban living or just beautiful ideas floating on uncertainty. And if you enjoy deep dives into ambitious mega projects and the engineering shaping tomorrow's world, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because the final project in this video might change how you think about cities forever. The first project takes us to Japan, a country that's constantly battling two unstoppable forces: limited land and rising seas. This is Ocean Spiral, a proposed self-sufficient underwater city developed by Shimizu Corporation, one of Japan's largest and most respected construction firms. And unlike most futuristic ocean concepts, this one was designed with real engineering constraints in mind. The idea is bold: a massive spherical city nearly 1,600 feet in diameter, floating just below the ocean's surface. From that sphere, a gigantic spiral structure would descend more than 2.5 miles down to the seabed, hence the name, Ocean Spiral. Inside the upper sphere, the city would house up to 5,000 residents, complete with homes, offices, schools, medical facilities, and green spaces. But the real innovation lies deeper. At the bottom of the spiral on the ocean floor, Shimizu proposes a resource processing hub that would tap into the deep sea itself. Minerals would be extracted from seabed deposits. Cold, deep ocean water would be used for natural cooling, and microorganisms could potentially convert carbon dioxide into usable fuel and oxygen. In theory, Ocean Spiral wouldn't just survive underwater, it would thrive there. Shimizu has estimated the cost at around $26 billion US, a staggering number, but not impossible compared to other national megaprojects. The company claims the structure could be built using advanced corrosion-resistant materials and pressure-resistant shells, similar to those used in deep-sea submersibles. But here's where the controversy starts. No underwater city on this scale has ever been built. Long-term human habitation beneath the sea raises serious questions about mental health, evacuation safety, structural fatigue, and what happens if even one critical system fails. And then there's the environmental risk: mining the seabed, altering deep ocean ecosystems, and introducing permanent human presence into one of Earth's least understood environments could have consequences we don't fully understand yet. Ocean Spiral remains a concept for now. No construction date, no confirmed funding. But it represents something important, a shift in how humans think about cities. Not as something tied to land, but something that could exist almost anywhere. Which is crazy to think about, and that raises an uncomfortable question. If technology makes underwater living possible, should we actually do it? After Japan's deep-sea vision, the next project brings us back to the surface and much closer to reality. This is Oceanix, a floating city concept backed by the United Nations, developed in partnership with UN Habitat, MIT Center for Ocean Engineering, and South Korean shipbuilding and engineering firms. Unlike Ocean Spiral, Oceanix isn't trying to escape the planet. It's trying to save coastal cities that are already running out of land. The core idea is simple, but radical. Instead of fighting rising seas with seawalls and pumps, what if cities could float? Oceanix is designed as a modular system of hexagonal floating platforms, each roughly the size of several city blocks. These platforms can be linked together to form neighborhoods, districts, and eventually entire cities, all anchored just offshore. Each module is designed to support about 300 residents, and a full city could scale to 10,000 people or more. The platforms would be built using maritime-grade concrete, similar to offshore oil rigs, engineered to withstand hurricanes, tsunamis, and rising sea levels. But here's where Oceanix gets serious. This isn't just a luxury concept. It's explicitly designed as a response to climate change, overcrowding, and displacement. The city would generate its own power using solar, wind, and wave energy, recycle nearly all of its water, grow food through hydroponics and aquaculture, and produce zero wastewater discharge into the ocean. In theory, Oceanix would be carbon neutral or even carbon negative. Now, let's talk cost. Unlike flashy mega projects, Oceanix has avoided releasing a single massive price tag. Instead, estimates suggest early pilot communities could cost several $billions compared to large coastal redevelopment projects. The goal is to make it scalable and replicable, not a one-off spectacle. And that's the key difference. Oceanix isn't meant to be a sci-fi city for the wealthy. It's meant to be a template, something that could be adapted for coastal cities in places like Bangladesh, the Maldives, Indonesia, and low-lying parts of Africa. South Korea has already committed to building a pilot floating city off the coast of Busan, making this one of the most advanced floating city projects ever proposed. But challenges remain. Floating cities still face legal gray zones, environmental permitting issues, long-term maintenance questions, and the social challenge of convincing people to live offshore. Still, compared to underwater cities, Oceanix feels less like science fiction and more like a test run for the future. If Oceanix feels practical, engineered, and policy-driven, AEQUOREA lives in the opposite end of the spectrum. This is an underwater city concept proposed for the coast of Rio de Janeiro. Designed by French architect Jacques Rougerie, a man known for blending oceanography, architecture, and science fiction into a single vision. AEQUOREA isn't designed to float, it's designed to sink, intentionally. The concept imagines a network of underwater habitats anchored to the seabed, connected by pressurized tunnels and transparent domes. Homes, hotels, research labs, public spaces, all beneath the ocean's surface, with sunlight filtering down through the water above. Rougerie describes it as a city that allows humans to live in harmony with the ocean, rather than dominating it. Visually, it's stunning. Glass-like shells, organic wave-inspired structures, panoramic underwater views of marine life swimming past your window. It looks less like a city and more like something from a sci-fi film. But here's the reality check. AEQUOREA is still entirely conceptual. No confirmed construction deadline, no finalized site approval, and no official construction budget. Based on comparable underwater habitats and offshore structures, experts estimate that a functioning underwater residential complex would likely cost multiple billions of dollars, even at a relatively small scale. And the challenges go far beyond cost. Living underwater introduces enormous engineering hurdles. Unlike floating cities, underwater structures can't easily expand, relocate, or adapt once they're built. Then there's the question, who is this actually for? AEQUOREA doesn't target climate refugees or overcrowded coastal cities. It's aimed squarely at luxury tourism, elite residences, and scientific research. A destination rather than a solution. That doesn't make it meaningless. Concepts like AEQUOREA often serve as testbeds for materials, pressure systems, and marine construction techniques that later influence real-world ocean engineering. But as of today, AEQUOREA represents a vision of the future that's more poetic than practical. After all the futuristic renderings and conceptual cities, the next project is different. Because Deep's Sentinel habitat isn't a vision, it's real, it's funded, and it's already under construction. Deep is a UK-based ocean engineering company, building what it claims will be the world's first permanent underwater human habitat, designed for long-term occupation, not short research missions. The Sentinel habitat is scheduled to be operational by 2027. Instead of placing homes directly on the seabed like AEQUOREA, Sentinel is designed as a pressurized modular structure that sits on the ocean floor, but can be relocated, serviced, and expanded. Think of it less like an underwater city and more like the International Space Station of the ocean. Each habitat module is engineered to support crews living underwater for up to 28 days at a time, with future versions aiming for even longer durations. Inside, sleeping quarters, workspaces, laboratories, and life support systems, regulating pressure, oxygen, humidity, and temperature. The depth matters. Sentinel is designed to operate at depths of up to 650 feet, far deeper than most existing underwater habitats. At that depth, the pressure is immense, roughly 20 times greater than at the surface, meaning every joint, every seal, every structural element must be flawless. At that depth, the human body is under enormous stress. Pressure increases by roughly 1 atmosphere every 33 feet, meaning the habitat must hold back pressure nearly 20 times greater than at the surface. Without protection, a human's lungs would collapse, nitrogen would dissolve into the bloodstream, and even small mistakes during ascent could cause decompression sickness, the same condition that can paralyze scuba divers who surface too quickly. That's why habitats like Sentinel are pressurized environments. They allow the human body to adapt slowly, protecting the brain from nitrogen narcosis, a condition that impairs judgment, reaction time, and motor control at depth. And that's where the cost comes in. Deep hasn't released an official price tag, but based on offshore engineering benchmarks, materials, and comparable subsea systems, industry analysts estimate each Sentinel habitat could cost tens of millions of dollars, potentially more as the system scales. But unlike floating cities or luxury underwater resorts, Sentinel has a very specific purpose. This isn't about tourism, it's about science, energy, and survival. Permanent underwater habitats allow researchers to study marine ecosystems without constant resurfacing. They support offshore energy maintenance, deep-sea mining oversight, and environmental monitoring in ways that short dives simply can't match. There's also a climate angle. As ocean temperatures rise and ecosystems change, the ability to live and work underwater could become critical for monitoring coral reefs, fisheries, and seabed infrastructure in real time. Still, Sentinel isn't without risks. Long-term human exposure to high-pressure environments raises questions about health, safety, and psychological strain. Maintenance costs will be enormous, and scaling from a single habitat to a network of underwater living spaces remains unproven. But unlike most projects on this list, Deep Sentinel Habitat is crossing the line from concept to reality. And that makes it one of the most important underwater construction experiments of this decade. When you step back and look at all these projects together, a pattern starts to emerge. Floating and underwater cities aren't really about luxury or sci-fi fantasies. They're responses to pressure, overcrowded coastlines, rising sea levels, limited land. A planet that's changing faster than our cities were designed to handle. But here's the reality check. Every one of these projects faces the same hard questions: cost, scalability, environmental impact. Building at sea is brutally expensive, maintaining structures underwater even more so. And while some of these designs promise harmony with marine ecosystems, the long-term consequences are still largely unknown. So, the real question isn't can we build cities on and beneath the ocean, it's should we and under what conditions? Because if these experiments succeed, they could redefine how humanity lives on a crowded planet. And if they fail, they'll become some of the most expensive lessons ever learned. But what do you think? Are floating and underwater cities the future? Or are they solving the wrong problem in the most complicated way possible? And if these become a reality, would you want to live in one? And which one would you choose? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy deep dives into bold engineering experimental mega projects and the ideas pushing humanity into uncharted territory, make sure to hit the subscribe button.